5 years ago, if you told me I'd be sitting in a $50 million penthouse overlooking Central Park, I would have laughed. Back then, I was just Michael Chen, the family disappointment, crouched over a computer in my parents' basement while my older brother David climbed the corporate ladder at Goldman Sachs. Still wasting time with your coding. My father's voice boomed down the basement stairs. Your brother just made junior partner. What have you accomplished today? I minimized my screen, hiding lines of code that would later become the foundation of Nexus Technologies. I'm working on something important, Dad. Important? He descended the stairs, his expensive shoes clicking against each step. You drop out of business school to play with computers. You're 24, living in our basement, while David is already managing millions. I tried to explain about the blockchain technology I was developing, the potential to revolutionize digital security. But he wasn't listening. He never did. That night at dinner, my mother pushed a job listing across the table. David's firm is hiring entry-level analysts. He can put in a good word. I don't want to be an analyst, I said, pushing the paper back. My project is nearly ready for beta testing. I just need a few more months. Months? My father slammed his hand on the table. We've given you years, living here rent-free, eating our food, while you chase some tech fantasy. David smirked over his wine glass. Not everyone can handle the real business world, Dad. Some people prefer to hide behind screens. I gripped my fork tighter, remembering the nights I'd helped David with his college math homework, explained basic programming concepts he couldn't grasp. Now he was the golden child, and I was the failure. Michael, my mother's voice turned pleading, be reasonable. You had such promise. Your MBA was paid for. The connections we built for you. I don't want connections. The words burst out louder than intended. I want to build something that matters. My security protocol could protect millions of people's data. Enough. My father stood up, his face red. I've had enough of this nonsense. Either you take the analyst position or you get out. No more free rides. The silence that followed felt eternal. I looked at my mother, hoping for support, but she just stared at her plate. David's smug expression said everything. He'd been waiting for this moment. Fine, I said quietly, standing up. I'll leave. Don't be dramatic, my mother started, but I was already heading to the basement. I had prepared for this possibility. My laptop, external drives, and essential belongings were packed within an hour. Years of work, countless lines of code, and an idea I knew would change everything. All fitted into one backpack and a small suitcase. You're really leaving? David leaned against the front door, watching me pack my car. Over some computer program. It's not just a program, I said, slamming the trunk shut. But you wouldn't understand that. He shrugged. When you fail, and you will fail, don't come crying to me to fix things. That's what big brothers are supposed to do, right? I got into my car without responding. Through the rearview mirror, I saw my parents watching from the window, probably already regretting their ultimatum. But it was too late. That night, I crashed on my best friend Tom's couch. He was the only person who truly understood what I was building. They kicked you out. Tom handed me a beer, shaking his head. Over Nexus? If they only knew what you're sitting on. I took a long sip. They'll know soon enough. The prototype is almost ready. We just need funding, Tom finished. He worked at a venture capital firm, the same one that had already rejected my proposal twice. Look, I might have a lead. A private investor. She's unconventional, but she gets tech. 2 days later, I met Sarah Winters in a hole-in-the-wall coffee shop. She wore ripped jeans and a faded hoodie, nothing like the suit-clad investors who dismissed my ideas before. Show me, she said simply, opening a battered laptop. For 3 hours, I walked her through the code, explaining how Nexus could revolutionize digital security. She asked sharp questions, spotted potential weaknesses I hadn't considered, and ultimately, I'm in, she said, closing her laptop. 5 million seed funding, 20% equity. I nearly choked on my cold coffee. 5 million. She smiled. I sold my first company for $2 billion last year. 5 million is pocket change if your code does what you say it can. Within a week, I had an office, a real office, not a basement. Tom quit his job to join as CTO, and Sarah's connections brought in top talent from Silicon Valley. The next 18 months were a blur of coding, testing, failing, and rebuilding. I slept on an air mattress in my office, surviving on ramen and coffee. Every time we hit a wall, I thought of my father's dismissive words, David's smug smile, and pushed harder. Then came the breakthrough. Our security protocol didn't just work, it was revolutionary. Major tech companies started calling. Government agencies showed interest. Investors who had ignored us were suddenly desperate to get in. Nexus Technologies' first round of funding raised $100 million. The second round brought in $500 million. But I kept my name out of the press, using Sarah as the public face of the company. The mysterious founder of Nexus became a topic of speculation in tech circles. But few connected it to the quiet coder who'd been kicked out of his parents' basement. I bought the penthouse because Sarah insisted I needed a proper home. But I rarely spent time there. The office was my real home, where I continued refining the technology that would eventually make Nexus a household name. One morning, Tom burst into my office, his face pale. "Michael, you need to see this." He handed me his tablet. On the screen was a news article. Goldman Sachs suffers major data breach, millions of client records exposed. And below that, David Chen, junior partner, under investigation for security protocol failures. My brother, the golden child, had ignored warnings about outdated security systems, leading to one of the largest data breaches in banking history. As I read the article, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother, the first contact in 5 years. "David's in trouble. Please come home. We need to talk." I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. Tomorrow, Nexus Technologies would announce its revolutionary security protocol, already secretly acquired by major banks, except Goldman Sachs, who had refused to meet with us, thanks to my brother's influence. Tomorrow, the world would learn that the mysterious founder of Nexus Technologies, now valued at over $20 billion, was the same useless son who'd been kicked out for playing with computers. I picked up my phone and typed a simple response. "I'll be there." The familiar street looked smaller than I remembered. My Tesla quietly pulled up to the house where I'd spent 24 years of my life, its pristine exterior masking the turmoil inside. Tom's voice came through my earpiece. "The press release is ready. Should we hold it?" "No," I said, watching my father pace behind the living room window. "Release it at 9 a.m. as planned. They should know before the rest of the world does." I straightened my casual black sweater, worth more than my father's car, but deliberately understated, and walked to the door. Before I could knock, it swung open. "Michael." My mother pulled me into a desperate hug. "Thank goodness you're here. David, he's in the study with your father. It's terrible." I followed her inside, knowing how little had changed. The same family photos lined the walls. David's graduations, promotions, achievements. My academic awards were conspicuously absent, relegated to storage years ago. In the study, David sat slumped in our father's leather chair, his perfect suit wrinkled, his arrogant smile replaced by dark circles under his eyes. Father stood by the window, looking older than his 60 years. "Little brother," David attempted his usual condescending tone, but it fell flat. "Come to witness the family crisis." I took a seat across from him. "I heard about the data breach. 12 million client records exposed. That's significant." "It's a nightmare," my father interjected. "The regulatory fines alone could bankrupt us. David's career, our family's reputation." My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. "CNBC wants an interview of the Nexus announcement. Still no." I typed a quick no comment and looked up at my family. There might be a solution. David leaned forward. "Money? Do you have money, Michael? I know you've been doing some tech work." "Some tech work," I repeated softly. "Yes, you could say that." My father sighed heavily. "Michael, if you can't help substantially, we need to focus on real solutions. Perhaps if you'd stayed in business school, built proper connections." The grandfather clock in the hall chimed 9 times. Right on schedule, all our phones buzzed simultaneously. David checked his screen first. His face went white. "Nexus Technologies, REVEAO's FOUNDER, and UNC's revolutionary security protocol." Michael Chen. "The BOLIO behind TCG's most mysterious empire." NEXUSFOUNDERS NE to worth estimated at $15 billion. My father grabbed David's phone, his hands shaking as he read. My mother let out a small gasp. This is impossible, David stammered. You're the useless son. I finished. The one wasting time with computers in the basement. Yes, that's me. Also the founder and CEO of Nexus Technologies. My father sank into a chair. 15 billion? 20 actually, after this morning's market opening. I pulled out my laptop. Would you like to see what I was working on in that basement? For the next 30 minutes, I walked them through the same presentation I'd given Sarah years ago. But this time, instead of ripped jeans and a hoodie, I wore a designer sweater. Instead of begging for investment, I was offering salvation. Nexus's security protocol could have prevented Goldman's data breach, I explained. We tried to sell it to them 6 months ago, but someone. I looked at David, convinced the board not to waste time with an unknown startup. David's face crumpled. I didn't know, I never thought, that your useless little brother could build something worthwhile. My mother touched my arm gently. Michael, we were wrong. So terribly wrong. Can you ever forgive us? I stood up, walking to the window where I'd once watched them celebrate David's successes. Forgiveness isn't the issue. Trust is. For 5 years, you never tried to contact me. Never wondered if I might succeed. You chose your version of success over your son. We can fix this, my father said quickly. As a family, your company, your connections, we could work together. No, the word fell like a stone in a quiet room. I didn't come here to merge our worlds. I came to give you a choice. I opened my briefcase and pulled out 3 documents. Option 1, Nexus provides Goldman Sachs with our security protocol at market rate, around $300 million. David keeps his job, albeit demoted. The family reputation survives. They leaned forward eagerly, but I held up my hand. Option 2, I purchased controlling interest in a firm through a hostile takeover, which my team has already prepared. I'll protect the clients, but the Chen family loses everything. You wouldn't, David whispered. The same way you wouldn't sabotage my investor meetings, spread rumors about my company. I have the emails, David. My father stood up, straightening his shoulders. You're bluffing. Even with your money, the board would never. 6 board members are already committed. I cut in. I've spent 5 years building relationships while you were dismissing me as a failure. Funny how that works. The room fell silent except for the gentle hum of my laptop. On the screen, Nexus's stock price climbed higher by the minute. Why are you doing this? My mother asked softly. Because success isn't just about money. It's about integrity. Values. Things this family forgot long ago. I stood up, gathering my belongings. You have until midnight to decide. My lawyers will be waiting. David jumped up. Wait. We're still family. You can't just. Family? I turned back. Family supports each other. Family believes in each other. You were never my family. You were my critics, my doubters, my obstacles. The people who believed in me? They're my family now. As if on cue, my phone rang, Sarah's face lighting up the screen. The markets are going crazy. We need you back at the office. I'll be there soon. I looked at my blood relatives one last time. Midnight. Choose wisely. Walking out of that house felt different than it had 5 years ago. Back then, I'd been angry, hurt, desperate to prove myself. Now I felt only calm certainty. My phone buzzed again. A text from Tom. They're calling about the decision already. What should I tell them? I looked back at the house, remembering years of dismissal and doubt. Tell them the truth. The most powerful force in the world isn't money or technology. It's the determination of someone who refuses to be what others say they are. At midnight, their decision arrived by courier. They'd chosen option 1, survival over pride. Smart choice. The next morning, as I signed the contracts in my office overlooking Manhattan, Sarah brought me coffee in a familiar chipped mug. The same one I used in my parents' basement. Keeping this as a reminder? She asked. I smiled, running my finger over the crack. No, as a testament to everyone who believes they can't succeed because someone told them they're nothing. Sometimes the basement is just the beginning. Across the city, my parents watched their son on CNBC, explaining how Nexus Technologies would revolutionize digital security. My mother cried. My father stared in silence. David probably turned off the TV. But I wasn't watching. I was in my lab, working on the next breakthrough. Because success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right, day after day, line of code by line of code, until your work speaks louder than any doubt ever could. The basement kid they kicked out now commanded an empire. But more importantly, he built something that mattered. And that was worth more than all the billions in the world.